Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update. Thursday, March 16th, around 8:45 p.m. Mountain Time 2023. Large hail fell in Texas, the nexus of the Schmexis, after severe thunderstorms and tornado warnings were issued. But the big story is active weather returning to Tahoe this weekend. Another big snow dump on the way, and the 12th atmospheric river in months. Keep calm. It's boom time. The short period of dry and cool weather wraps up Friday at Lake Tahoe, with the active pattern returning this weekend, and possibly another big dump of snow is lining up for early next week. What a tweak. A couple of fast-moving systems will bring a chance of snow showers this weekend, with light accumulations possible over the mountain passes, followed by a second boom. And this is as California homes are dangling from cliffs as landslides.
Rain in Southern California left
statewide.
3 cliffside apartment buildings on the verge of collapse. Orange County Fire Authority crews evacuated all residents of the homes Wednesday morning in San Clemente after the hillside slid away, damaging at least one patio area and leaving unstable conditions. More than 4 inches of rain fell in the area. Landslides are also a problem at the northern extreme of the state. A coastal road near the town of Happy Camp was closed by a large debris flow. Caltrans is working to clear it, but there is no timetable for reopening. And unfortunately for residents, no detour available. The good news for California is that the rain and snow has stopped for the time being. The last 8 years have been the hottest on record for planet.
With houses teetering on the edge of cliffs, obviously more atmospheric rivers coming, and the spring runoff not really yet kicked off into high gear, there are flood emergencies and widespread flooding, as well as mudslides that will be coming to California as the days and weeks progress.
Possibly delaying replanting for months.
California farmers appear to be getting desperate, sacrificing pickup trucks in an effort to fill a broken levee.
Stop right there, baby. Stop right there. Yes. Yep. Right there, yes. Yep.
The farmer who posted this video says the men were trying to prevent the Tule River in Central California from inundating an orchard. On Wednesday, Governor Gavin Newsom surveyed damage in the farming town of Pajaro, the result of a break in a levee that's been neglected for decades.
This is a known problem. The money is there to fix it. When can people expect to see construction on the solution?
We have a 5 to 7 year timeline that has been pre-established, but based upon this experience, no one has patience for 5 to 7 years.
Across the state, almost 90,000 people are facing evacuation. Christopher Moreno left his home in the middle of the night with no shoes.
What happened when you went to the shelter?
It was full.
It was full. No room.
No more space.
He's been living in his car for almost a week.
So this is everything you got now?
This is my home for now.
Now the local community is stepping in with clothes and supplies.
What do you want to say to the people who are in charge of all this?
Crazy what's happening there, and clearly Newsom does not have control of it. But the good news is that California water restrictions have been eased for millions after these atmospheric river storms. Nearly back-to-back storms have refilled reservoirs and built up snowpack, easing drought as residents reckon with the destruction. And here's a good example. Lopez Lake is expected to overflow for the first time in 24 years. Now, unlike Oroville, this group that controls the Lake Lopez overflow has reinforced it to prevent deadly erosion, which may threaten people downstream.
Lopez Lake is expected to overflow in a matter of days, and that would send water over the spillway for the first time in 25 years.
What a difference 6 months can make. After approaching record low levels, Lopez Lake is now almost completely full.
I live 5 or 6 miles away, so just come out here once in a while.
It's incredible. I love it.
John Atkins lives in Arroyo Grande and drove out to see Lopez Lake at its highest level in years. He has been keeping a close eye on lake levels and is waiting for water to flow over the spillway any day now.
I think it's at 516.8 or something like that, and 522 is the overflow, is the spillway.
Lopez Lake has risen just above 516 feet of elevation and is now just 6 feet from overflowing.
It's kind of crazy to go from one of the lowest elevations that we've had, down around 10,000 acre feet in capacity, during the drought, and now we're almost going to be at 100%.
SLO County Public Works says that the spillway will almost certainly be put to use for the first time since 1998.
We're projecting that it will likely spill in the next probably 7 to 10 days, maybe 14 days, depending on how much runoff we get.
The Lopez Lake spillway undergoes maintenance every year. These giant concrete slabs have been resealed to make sure that water doesn't begin to erode the spillway, which prompted mass evacuations beneath Lake Oroville in 2017.
That's not a concern for us, but just a precautionary measure.
Water flowing over the spillway could also lead to more flooding downstream.
You would get an uncontrolled release. So right now you have all that flood storage. So we would definitely be monitoring AG and Oceano, especially the Oceano levee.
Now, what that means for all the other reservoirs in California is in the next 7 to 14 days, that snow is going to begin to melt and fill those reservoirs, which is then going to hit the overflows. There is no way to control the overflow. So if the water continues to come in the back end, that overflow continues to flow uncontrolled to whatever level it reaches. So we're going to see some widespread flooding and extreme dangerous conditions in about 2 weeks, and that's the bad news. Now, the latest tornado watch expires in Dallas-Fort Worth as tennis ball size hail was reported. We showed you that picture on the open, and apparently they got pummeled. Now, the good news is that the storm is moving over Missouri here in Arkansas and has left the building. So, good news. The storm is moving east. Now, there is going to be a cold snap to follow the southern U.S. severe weather threat. Last night, there were frost and freeze warnings all the way down to the Florida Panhandle. And after storms bring the risks of damaging hail and strong winds and even tornadoes, a wintry pattern will develop in the south and persist right through the official start of spring. Ding, ding. That's the next 5 days. Here's the forecast. Heavy snow in the Great Lakes region, severe weather in the south. A winter storm will produce heavy lake-enhanced and lake-effect snow across the Great Lakes region through the weekend, causing hazardous travel and rapidly changing road conditions. Scattered severe thunderstorms are expected to continue overnight across parts of Texas, the nexus of the Schmexis, and into parts of southern Arkansas, as well as Louisiana, and move into the central Gulf Coast Friday, and then bring the threat of severe weather this weekend to Florida. So stay tuned for more boom. As we take a look at the snowfall amounts over the last 72 hours, the Northeast is buried, as well as the southern Sierras. Holy macaroni, and more snow is coming. That's the long-term forecast. Here you can see some of that lake effect there piling up in those regions right off the lakes, but it's not too heavy. It's looking just like 7 to 10 inches in some of the more hard-hit regions. But look at the snow piling up in the Sierras, as well as the South San Juans here. It's like we're mimicking each other. We're both tilting the scales as far as snow, ho-ho. And it's looking like 4 to 8 feet more snow through March 23rd. 22nd. That's insane. That is just 6 days out. So lots of precipitation hitting the southwest and the west through the next 6 days. Let's move it through for you here. Here is your Thursday night through Friday. And that's the snow is going to be falling all day Friday. Hardest hit's going to be up in Canada. A little bit of depth here, probably in Taos and some of the northern mountains here of New Mexico. Could be record-setting. As it moves through southern Canada there and dumps most of the snow. There's the lake effect hitting Maine. It's insane. And New York State and a little bit just east of Erie there. Nothing spectacular until this system moves into the west here at the beginning of the week. Sunday into Monday, heavy snow in the north is going to be transversing down by Tuesday. Into Wednesday, we could be picking up 4 to 8 feet of snow. Tuesday into Wednesday. And let's look at the total accumulated precipitation and see what the flooding potential is. It's epic. So a lot of this precipitation is going to be in a region that is not going to be snow. So that is going to be flood potential for north central California through Wednesday. Now, landowners feel deep water injection of fracking waste is threatening aquifers in West Texas. And I don't know how they just got the memo. This has been going on for decades and is the reason why there's major frack quakes in West Texas. Because they inject radioactive toxic waste about a half-mile down into the deep aquifers, claiming that it will never percolate up and affect the drinking water. But there's no evidence or peer-reviewed studies to prove that. What we do know is that every frack well, after a certain amount of time, will crack and leak, period. So there is absolutely no reason why we wouldn't think that injecting billions of gallons of toxic waste, in fact, here they say hundreds of millions of gallons of toxic brine is disposed in West Texas. Well, it's also disposed up here in Peace River, Canada, where a 5-magnitude earthquake rumbled the earth earlier today. There really are no other quakes of note. We had some 7-magnitude activity in the Kermadex here, north of New Zealand, but no one felt that. Few people might have felt that. A lot of people live in the Peace River. Now, the reason there's an uptick in the Peace River region is because of the Peace River disposal area. There's frack water and wastewater being injected in many of these regions, including Red Deer, Cordell Field, Musreau Lake, and Fox Creek. These could all be human-induced earthquakes in the squares. Now, distinguishing between natural and human activity-induced earthquakes is challenging. But when you look at a map before and after of this region, you'll be convinced. Worldwide Volcano News Update. Thankfully, not a lot going on in the volcano front, but we do have some spectacular photography coming from Korangitang volcano. And this is in northern Indonesia, incandescent avalanches, separate from the lava dome. Look at these, all these things erupting at once. Absolutely beautiful. Now, space weather is quieting down after multiple clips from CMEs hit our planet. 1, 2, 3. It's a trifecta. Never got above 600 kilometers per second, so we were really never at any worry of serious geomagnetic storm. Basically just geomagnetic instability, KP 5.5. And the 3-day forecast is all is quiet on the sun as the sun is quiet. The sun itself looks embarrassingly blank for solar max. Just one spot there and a little tiny spot here turning around the limb. And overall, the sun has gone quiet at solar max. This is not particularly abnormal, but it's also not normal. It's not normal on a cycle 25, that most astrophysicists predicted to be twice as strong as 24, or even the strongest cycle ever. It's turning out to be, well, a dud, as predicted by us a decade ago. Now, what I want to bring your attention to is these solar prominences, or solar tornadoes, or plasma tornadoes. This one here is about 10,000 miles high, and this one extends all the way up beyond the photosphere here and into Neverland. But let's play this through and keep a close eye on the dancing tornadoes. Look at these guys. Boom. And look at this guy. It almost looks like a dude dancing. Absolutely spectacular. This is tens of thousands of kilometers up off the surface of the sun. And it is, well, quite a sight to behold. Let's just run it through again. Notice we've got these two guys and this one over here. The top tornado, plasma tornado, looks a little bit like a squatter man, if I may say so myself. Now, here's some fun news from the interwebs. Greta Thunberg reportedly deletes a 2018 tweet which claimed, and I quote, "The climate change will wipe out all of humanity by 2023. Apparently, she looked back on her tweets and realized it is 2023, and very little has changed since she made the tweet, so she might seem a little dumb. But we knew that now, didn't we? Now, for all of the thousands of people that have ever wanted to show me a rock because they think it's a meteorite, guess what? Let's say it's been 1,000 times over the last 3 decades as my tenure as a geologist. I've had 1,000 people all over the country, all over the world. They all want to show me a rock. It's usually a huge 5, 10, 15-pound lump, a doorstop. They all think they're meteorites. The only problem is that meteorites don't have bubbles. They don't have vesicles. And 100% of the time, all of the rocks I've ever been shown that people think are meteorites are slag. And when I tell them that, they hate me. But so why did you ask? If you want to ask an expert geologist who's a field scientist who knows how to identify almost every rock on the surface of the earth, what your sample is, and they give you the correct answer, why do you get butthurt? Now, the reality is that there are about 3 common types of meteorites, and that meteorites can have a glassy surface like this and look like maybe molten wax. See how shiny that is? But what they don't ever have are vesicles or bubbles. Like this sample on the right. Meteorite left, slag to the right. Now, what I'm about to show you is all the varieties of slag that are found around the world that people think are meteorites. These are all slags. They all have vesicles or bubbles. More slags. Now, these have less bubbles, but what they have is round metal blebs. And this is indicative of industrial slag. No meteorites have these light-colored blotches. Here's more rounded metal blebs in a variety of sizes. This is more industrial slag, different variety. This is the most common slag that people find that think is a meteorite, these versions. But 1,000 out of every 1,001 samples that people think are meteorites are slag. Here's more slag here. This is more industrial flow slag. And again, these rocks are not meteorites. They all have bubbles, and they are all slag. So, if you think you have a meteorite, there is a 99.9% chance that you've got slag. Hate to burst your bubble. Now, one of Earth's biggest mass extinctions was caused by rising sea levels in an eerie echo of today. Sharticle alert. Apparently, they didn't get the memo that in some of these mass extinctions, oceans change depths by hundreds of meters in decades. Yeah, and we barely have millimeters per decade happening here on Earth. But what it does fit is the fear-mongering narrative that the media portrays that sea levels are rapidly rising. But the fact is, sea levels haven't risen at all for centuries. Now, this is a graphic I created back in 2018, 5 years ago. After decades of global warming, reporting from all mainstream media, the sea level remained quite the same amidst the period of fear-mongering and misinformation churned out by the mainstream media. On the left, you're looking at the Statue of Liberty in 1898. On the right is the Statue of Liberty in 2017. And it actually appears as if the sea level is lower today. Hey. That's what's called science, physical science, and actual facts. We're actually looking at the facts, we can see them, and we can see through the lies. Now, an extremely rare fossilized dinosaur voice box suggests that they sounded just like birds. Well, this is anything but groundbreaking. We know that chickens are dinosaurs and that birds are the remnants of the dinosaur era. Now, a fossilized ankylosaur voice box reveals that these beasts may have sported a far more sophisticated vocal range than scientists originally thought. Can you imagine songbird dinosaurs? Yeah, That's mind-blowing. And this picture is completely beautiful. Let's take a look at that voice box. Holy macaroni. All the links will be below. Now, in case you didn't get the memo, Elon Musk is chasing a pipe dream. Humans are not going to live off planet. You know why? Because humans are genetically modified by nature to live on planet. That means we are not biologically created to live off planet. So as soon as you take a biological entity out of the atmosphere of the planet, it has evolved on, bad things happen. And in fact, Homo sapiens are a species not designed for spaceflight. Health risks in low orbit and beyond, including potential risks when traveling beyond the geomagnetic field of Earth. So thinking that we're going to go to Mars and make a good time of it is completely ludicrous. We don't have the technology. Now, what else is completely ludicrous, in my opinion, is plate tectonics theory. The expanding Earth is a much better explanation for all of the physical evidence we see on the surface. It explains pole shifts, like the Chan Thomas story. And no, the Earth doesn't have to tilt 90 degrees to the equator and the oceans wash over. The big fantasy that's being fed to you by a bunch of fearmonger nonsense people that are non-scientists, by the way. But God, their fans are gobbling up and they're making millions of dollars off of this mockery. But we're going to talk to you about some real science, including expansion tectonics, this Saturday on our radio show at Revolution Radio on Saturday, noon Mountain Time, on our radio show. Lee and I, every Saturday, noon Mountain Time on Revolution Radio in Studio B, 12 noon Mountain, talk about cosmic catastrophes. And this Saturday will be no different when we discuss expansion tectonics. Here is a 118-page PDF from Dr. James Maxwell that he provides for free to anyone who wants to learn about the topic. And this is a complimentary download, which is a portion of his 479-page textbook on the topic of expanding Earth, which explains almost all the anomalies in the fossil record, and why, back in the Paleozoic, all of the continents were covered in oceans, because the whole Earth was continents. What say you? Leave your comments below. And that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. I hope you got something out of the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Give us a thumbs up. Share this video as we are shadow banned and no one can see it that's not subscribed. And more importantly, become a Patreon. Support the work we do. We love you. Be safe. Yeah.